Hey everybody, it's your girl Delasia and I'm back with another video. This is actually technically my first official long form video on YouTube, and I think it's cool this is the first one. We'll do like a get to know me thing later on. But so I did a post on Instagram that talked about 3 things I learned from reading the book of Esther. And in my original video that I made to introduce myself to y'all, I wanted to talk a little bit about what my channel was going to be. And so super lifestyle, very much inspiration. We'll do vlogs, but also I love the Lord. I'm a Jesus girl. And so anytime that I learn lessons from the Bible, or I feel like God has downloaded something into my spirit to be shared with other people, I will share. And so yeah, all glory goes to God. So let's get started. I originally was doing fasts with my sister and one of my close friends to just, get closer to God, learn more about ourselves, learn more about how we could be more like God, really get into the habit of prayer, reading the Bible, and just doing that continuously, because the Bible does say pray without ceasing. And I wanted to make it easier for us to make God an integral part of our day without it being a chore, without it feeling like it was something super difficult or a super big hurdle that we had to go through every time it was time to pray or read the Bible or anything like that. So every month we try to do a 3-day fast, either at the beginning of the month or the end of the month. And this time we did the end of April into May, and we read the book of Esther. We did 3 chapters a day, and then reflected on each of the chapters. And so in that whole bit of Bible study and fasting and everything, it was really cool to see what they got out of it, what I got out of it, and then kind of what we all got out of it as a whole. And so I took notes in my notebook, thanks to Baby Air, and let me take my to-do list off of there. But like I said, I made a post on Instagram to talk through just the 3 things that I learned from Esther, from the entire book, not just Esther as a woman in the Bible, but from all the people that are in the story. And honestly, this might even go past 3 things I learned, maybe just talk through the book of Esther in general. But I'm going to try to keep it pretty concise so that it doesn't get too long and too lengthy. So one of the biggest things I learned, and I'm going to look this way because I have the things I listed out on my screen. The first thing that I learned is it's really important to do the things that you're called to do. Even if you are hesitant, you're not sure of the outcome. If God is calling you to do it, do it. Trust and have faith that He will continue to give you guidance each and every day through each and every step. The reason I got that specifically is because when King Xerxes decided to let Vashti go because she was you're doing too much. But he basically banished her and was yeah, no, I need a new wife. And he made a call to all the cities and had all the virgins and everything like that. And when Mordecai heard about it and he told Esther to, go to be considered to be queen, she went and she listened to his wisdom. She listened to the fact that he said, do not tell anyone that we're related. Don't tell anyone that we are cousins. And she pretty much followed through. And she didn't know what the journey was going to look like. She didn't know what was going to come of it, but she stood firm in following what she was called to do. Not that she might have known that was what she was going to be called to do in general, but what I really got from this was, again, ignoring divine purpose and direction from God, or people who God have to speak to you, can not only affect your path and the outcomes for your life, but for other people as well. And so if you know the story of Esther, the book of Esther, it basically came down to Haman trying to, he basically ordered to have all the Jews killed because they, they weren't bowing down to the king. And specifically Mordecai really triggered it because Mordecai wouldn't bow down to Haman. And so Haman got really full of himself and was just we're going to have all the Jews killed since you're a Jew too. And Esther's role in stopping that, in stopping Haman, and making sure that her people, the people of God, were safe, was really important. And so if she had not followed the call, followed directions, and just been herself throughout the process, I don't know what would have happened. I mean, I feel like more Jews would have died. She really did risk a lot to even stand true in that. And sometimes, a lot of times, what we're called to do the most we find brings sometimes the most difficulty in following through. Not everything with it will be easy. Not everything with it will be peaches and cream, and it won't be rainbows and unicorns. It's not going to be seamless all the time. So just really keeping note of that. And then the second thing I learned, because I said that Esther was true to herself, my sister actually brought this up. Esther was humble throughout the whole process. She was true to herself. She didn't change. She was kind. She was very humble. And if you read all throughout the book, it'll say that she gained the favor of people very easily, especially King Xerxes. And that's how she became the queen, because she was very much humble. She was respectful. She was kind. She was nice. She was just all these really cool things. And that was just who she was. She didn't change up. When she got in the king's palace, she showed up authentically. She was rooted in faith and ready to serve as well. So she was ready to follow directions, do what she was told to do. And that's really important, because when we show up ready to serve, not always thinking about ourselves and what we can gain, but how God can use us as a vessel, that's when God gives us favor. That's when he opens doors and we walk into things that we never imagined possible. And when you walk into those things, remember to keep God at the center and continue to remind yourself that, hey, I'm here because of God. Because I was also just watching a podcast where one of the guests on the podcast mentioned that she knew that speaking was her gift and that God had given her this gift. And at one point, she started to make her gift an idol. She began to worship and reverence the gift more than the giver, which is God. He gave her that gift. And so she had to reset and repent. And so just remembering to always keep God first in everything that you do, no matter what doors he opens, what opportunities he gives, remembering to thank him, reverence him, and continue to allow people to see the you that is in him. Ooh, wrong. Allow people to see the God that is in you in everything that you do, and making sure that you uphold that character of Jesus. And then the third thing is keep your ears open to wisdom. Always be willing to learn. Always be willing to grow, because life in general is a lifelong journey, but wisdom is also going to help you gain discernment. It's also going to help you gain knowledge. It's going to help you, know when to say no to certain opportunities, no matter how good they look on the outside. I will say I have said yes to many an opportunity in this year alone where I'm just like, yeah, I see why I jumped the gun too quick. I was too quick to make a decision whether it just looked really good, the people I was going to be working with, the brands that I was going to represent, what it was going to do for me as an individual. And looking back on it, I'm like, dang, how much time, energy, and stress would I have saved if I would have just consulted God first? So making sure that, one, you keep your ears open to wisdom and you consult God in everything that you do, no matter how big or small. Like sometimes, y'all, I will be like, something will throw off my schedule and I'm like, you know what? Maybe it was God telling me I need to leave the house 5 minutes later. Maybe sometimes even down to like when we go shopping and we have a usual Publix or usual Target, some days it'll be like, don't go to that Target. Don't go to this Publix. Like you really have to have the spirit of discernment and making sure that you keep your eyes and ears open to the voice of God. Because you never know how that could save your life, how it could change someone else's life. And again, I'm following God's direction by making this video because if I'm being honest, I posted on Instagram just to see what people's response to it would be. And because I guess it was kind of a starter version of me posting this video on YouTube. But the bigger piece is like the bigger piece of obedience is posting this video in its long, in its long form, because it could reach somebody who needs it, teach somebody something new. And so those were the top 3 things that I learned from reading Esther. Do the things you're called to do, be true to yourself, and keep your ears open to wisdom. Now, some other things that I picked up on, not necessarily about Esther specifically, but about other people. One is that Mordecai was a real one. Like, everybody needs a Mordecai. Everybody needs someone that's going to hold you accountable, that's going to continue to make sure that you are following the way of Christ, following and sticking to who you are as an authentic person, remaining true to yourself, and not switching up just to switch up. Mordecai 1 tells Esther, don't tell anyone that we're related, things like that. He tells her to just, be herself. And also, because Mordecai ends up informing the king's staff that there were people plotting to kill him, Haman, the person who ends up being his entire enemy, gets this position that he's in. And Haman, throughout the book of Esther, is so boastful and so flamboyant and very boisterous about the fact that he is the highest of all the princes and that he got invited to this dinner with Esther and no one else did, not knowing that that very dinner is what led to his demise. And it's very crazy to me how Haman got all of these things because of Mordecai, and he didn't even respect Mordecai. He didn't even know. So again, you never know how following what you're supposed to do is going to promote somebody, but also how what you're going to do is going to save other people by way of God, blocking the enemy, blocking something bad from happening, and getting rid of those bad things. So that was really big. I specifically wrote here that Haman gets a big head and boasts about his possessions, his status, and being invited to Esther's banquet. So much so that his anger, but the crazy thing about it is his anger and hatred for Mordecai overshadowed all the good things that he had gotten. And he didn't even take the time, well, I don't even think he really knew until it was too late, to realize that Mordecai was the reason he even got this opportunity. So that was one thing. And the other thing, this was so big, because when I say, when I had this revelation, because it's going to sound like something so simple, but when I had this revelation and I thought through how this looked as a practical application of my life, it was insane. So in chapter 5, that's when Haman is boasting and he's telling people like he got invited to Esther's banquet. Chapter 6 is when the king actually realizes that it's Mordecai who helped prevent him from being killed by the people who were infiltrating his camp. And in chapter 7, that's where, after all this, Haman's caused all this trouble, has been having the Jews killed, and he realizes that Mordecai is the person who actually got him to where he is. If Mordecai hadn't said anything, those people would have still been in that position. Haman would have never been promoted. And guess what, y'all? The very gallows that Haman set up to have Mordecai hung on are the same ones that Haman was killed on. And I thought that was insane, because I thought about how when people speak against you, when things try to come up against you, and you walk in faith and you follow God's direction, you do all the things that I said I've learned from this book, you're honored and promoted. And the same people who try to talk against you, use their words against you, plot against you, they end up falling because of their own words. They end up their own words, their own actions end up being used against them. And I thought that was so crazy, because I really had to reflect that I've watched it happen to people in my life who just people in my life. And it's just wild, because not only has God been promoting me in different ways and opening different doors for me, but again, the people who spoke against me, the people who had bad things to say, never had anything good to say from the beginning, have always talked down on my journey, have always dismissed me, have always tried to degrade and make me seem as less than. Those are the people who now, I'm realizing what's really important, and a lot of things that I have that are genuinely important at the root of things, like my circle, my foundation of friends, the growth that I'm experiencing, they don't have that. And so that was really big for me, something that I realized. And the other thing was that and we're backtracking, this is all over the place, but you know what, we're gonna keep going. That in chapter 4, when Mordecai learns about Haman trying to do this whole decree to have all the Jews killed, Mordecai goes to Esther. He still says, hey, don't tell them we're related, all this stuff. He reminds her that just because you're queen now doesn't mean that you could fall victim to this plot that Haman has set up. And so that was a huge reminder to me that no matter what position you get put in, no matter how much you get promoted, never think that you're too good to not be attacked. The devil is actually going to continue to attack you as you grow, as you're promoted. Another thing about the podcast I watched today, the higher you go up the mountain, the lower you need to bow in prayer, and making sure that you are deeply rooted in the Word of God, and making sure that you are constantly opening your spirit and your mind and your heart to hear from Him for direction and discernment. And so, again, your position does not protect you from being attacked all the time. You have to think about how following through on your assignment opens doors for not only yourself, but for others. Making sure that you live authentically, you listen to wisdom, you stay true to yourself, and you do the things that you're called to do. So hopefully this video wasn't too long for y'all and it wasn't too all over the place, but I wanted to get this out here, and I'm excited for the next one. I don't even know what the next one's gonna be. It might not even be anything about a book of the Bible. It might just be my life. We'll see what happens. But thank you all for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you thought of the video. Let me know if you've read the book of Esther and if there's anything similar that you've learned or that you found. Definitely let me know if there's any other books that I should read, and how we can connect more, learn more about me. I want to learn about y'all, this little community that I'm building on here. I'm super excited to see the channel grow and to see how I'm able to be a blessing to people with my content. And so that's all I got. Thanks, y'all.